Bolivia, Sunday, 19th of October, 2025. Hola YouTube. Gonna try something now. I'm gonna try to make a one take video and upload straight from my phone. So today's election day in Bolivia, and it's the second round, the runoff election. So there's been one election already this year in August, and the winner of that election was Mr. Rodrigo Paz Pereira. So he is profiling himself as some sort of a center candidate, I think, if I understood this right. I think his party is like the Christian Democrats, and so he got the majority. He didn't get his own majority, yeah, but he won the primary election. So in order for someone to bring home the victory of the presidency with just one election here in Bolivia, they would need to have their own majority, more than 50%, I believe. That's the system like. Or if they don't have more than 60%, they need to be ahead of the second with more than 10%. So it was a pretty tight run. So second place was Mr. Tuto Quiroga, aka Tuto Quiroga. So he's a political veteran here in Bolivia. He's more of a profiled right-wing opposition candidate here in Bolivia. Right-wing tends to be the opposition, with some exceptions in time. So, and he's been president before, I think, or vice president. Well, he was in the interim government of Janine Áñez just a few years ago. He was also appointed, but not really as vice president, international spokesman. But he's been president before, yeah. He was the 67th president before the era of Evo Morales, 2001 to 2002. He's a really popular guy among the middle class here in Bolivia, or the aspiring middle class, to the extent there is such a thing as a middle class, but among professionals and urban people. So a lot of people in my circles as an expat here, people I meet in parents in schools and so on, fellow parents. He's somebody they hope for. So what about this other guy who actually won the primary election round, Rodrigo Paz? So people here are very suspicious about him. So I'm in the town of Tarija now, where I live part-time. And I actually live most of the time this year in Tarija. I don't plan to be here so much next year. We'll see about that. Anyhow, he's from here, or he was born in Spain actually, Rodrigo Paz Pereira, but he has been major here in the town of Tarija. And yeah, people here are very suspicious about him. They are suspicious that he's sort of just packaging, he's just a Trojan horse for the mass party, the socialists under Evo Morales, basically. That's what people accuse him for, like in common talk here. He's just packaging socialism in a new a new package, calling himself more like a Christian Democrat or so. But he used to be something of a more outspoken socialist. I mean, he was a member of a revolutionary left movement. How about that? So yeah, we'll see. So it's about between this guy or Jorge Quiroga. There was a third runner in the primary election round who was very strong and had very strong support here in Tarija. That was Mr. Samuel. So the millionaire, the multimillionaire, they call him. There are not a lot of billionaires here in Bolivia, but multimillionaire, that's good enough. So he is a businessman. He owns the Burger King, or runs the Burger King franchise here in Bolivia, among other hotel business and so on. He's a very successful person in hospitality and restaurants. And Bolivia is famously deprived of McDonald's. There's no McDonald's, but in the bigger cities there are Burger King. And yeah, he had very strong support here in Tarija, and I think overall, but yeah, not strong enough. It was a pretty tight race between these three: him, Mr. Quiroga, Tuto Quiroga, and Rodrigo Paz. Now, Rodrigo Paz comes from a political clan here in Bolivia. So he's the son of a previous president, also Jaime Paz Zamora, who was president. He was the 32nd vice president, and then I think he was actually president to. Yeah, he was the 60th president. So he was 32nd and 60th president of Bolivia. That says something, yeah. There were actually, he was in the presidency here twice, and almost 30 presidents in between. I mean, that's crazy. Bolivia was considered an ungovernable place before Evo Morales, before the era of Evo Morales. When Evo Morales came to power, 2006, he had a long era of power, 2006 to 2019. He was he did a lot for this country in stabilizing the country and so on, and making it a governable place at all, I suppose. It was very popular, like during the first half of that era, he was very popular. Then less so, but he still has a strong support. So his party was MAS, Movimiento al Socialismo, and they are still strong in the countryside, particularly among the rural population that is very big here in Bolivia. And so right now, what happened in 2019 was there was an election, and immediately after that election there was a coup. So for me as an expat living here in Bolivia at that time, I got the real deal moving to South America. I ended up in the middle of a coup. It actually started in Cochabamba, right near where I had my place, the police station there. The police together with some citizen groups, some groups of basically political movements, started this coup and overthrew Mr. Morales, and yeah, they accused him of fraud, basically, in the election fraud, and he had to go in exile. And there was a time there, 2020, when yeah, pretty much when the whole pandemic madness broke out, where there was an interim government here in Bolivia. So that was one of the few right-wing governments also that has been during 2020, during 1 year after the coup, when they were preparing for the re-election. That was a time with a lot of optimism and a lot of it was a very interesting time to be here, particularly, at least if you were like me, socializing in aspiring middle class in a city among professionals and so on. They wanted to change. They wanted to get away from the socialism. They were really afraid of Bolivia going in Venezuela's tracks and becoming something. This guy Morales was socializing a lot with others, socialist leaders that were governing with much harder, much more repressive methods than they were doing here in Bolivia. And yeah, people were really getting really nervous about him just staying in power. So it was an interesting time, the time of Janine Áñez, the interim government. Anyhow, 1 year after that coup and the interim government, there was a re-election. So that was in 2020. And the MAS won again, the socialists won. So we now have Mr. What's his name? Luis Arce is now president, yeah, um, currently. So he's been for the last 4 years, and he's not very popular. So he's running on like one of the fractions within the Mass Party. So sort of the Socialist Party is very fractioned now, uh, very, it's not very strongly kept together. A lot of internal conflicts, and one of the fractions is the ones that are still loyal to Mr. Morales, and other ones are supporting this. Luis Arce. By the way, Luis Arce's son right now is detained. That's one of the news in the story, but it's like for domestic violence thing. So it's not like a drug or a corruption thing in this case. So yeah, interesting. Now the voting booths are still open here in the towns of Bolivia, and they're gonna start counting the votes. And we're gonna have either Mr. Rodrigo Paz Pereira or comeback for Tuto Quiroga. I think tomorrow, the 20th in the morning, we'll probably have some good preliminary numbers.